What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. I said I was gonna do another Frank Ocean video as soon as I've put together this piece that I was working on, and the piece is basically about how Endless and Blonde represent two different versions of society. I came to that conclusion when I started listening to it. So let's get into Endless. Now, look at the rollout for Endless. It's not your traditional Frank Ocean rollout. And I mean, there's not really too much to compare Frank Ocean rollouts to. I mean, Channel Orange came without much warning. So did, Nostalgia Ultra. But this is definitely not something that Frank would do as far as what we know as him as an artist. Him putting up a video that's streaming for, how, Lord knows how long. Like, he's doing something and then he's gone. And we were glued to our computers trying to figure out what it was. Long before we knew it was going to be an album, we were like, what is he doing? What is he building? And whenever we would see like an update on Twitter, we would go crazy. We would have to go back and run towards it. And I think Frank, like, that idea is just kind of like showing us how much we rely on technology and how we use it so much. And even for stupid things. I mean, let's be honest. Was there any real purpose for Frank doing his live stream or his video, whatever you want to call it? There really wasn't. It didn't get you hyped for the album up until like the last hour or so when he started playing the actual music and you started to hear it, and then it came out on Apple Music. So that was Endless for me, like, as far as the rollout goes. Separately, you have Blonde. And Blonde is more of the traditional rollout for Frank Ocean. The only hint that we had that was coming was from Apple Music, but one employee saying, hey, this album is going to drop on Saturday is not going to make us flinch. We've heard rumor after rumor after rumor. So nobody was really buying it until the album actually came out. It's on iTunes, you can buy it. And then he had 4 pop-up shops. In LA, New York, and 2 other spots where you can get his magazine, Boys Don't Cry, as well as a physical copy of the album included in it. And it's the only place that you can get the magazine so far. And for me, that kind of represented like, okay, if for 1 second, just 1 second, Frank is getting you away from technology and taking you into his world, because Frank doesn't live his life around technology. He doesn't sit here and tweet all day. He only has a Tumblr, and he doesn't even really update that much. I would be surprised if Frank actually uses his phone or uses a laptop more than, once a day, if that. He's like the type of person that's just enjoying life. He'll watch, or not watch, he'll like go camping, something like that. I don't know. But I look at Frank as someone who doesn't rely on technology that much. And that's where the contrast in the albums come in to play. With Endless, you listen to the material and it's a lot more of like a techno vibe at times. Like the intro/outro, which is titled Device Control, is done by Wolfgang Tillman. And the whole concept of this weird record that Frank isn't even singing on, he's not even featured on this record. But the concept of it is that we're relying on our phones too much. He says stuff like you can live stream your life. He talks about Apple, Samsung, and all the various carriers that have phones and everything that we can do with it now, and how we're just so invested into them. We're always looking down at them. We're always texting, tweeting, Instagramming, everything. And that was like the one moment on the album that I knew, like, this album is centered at technology. That's the concept for me. A world where we're so reliant on that. And I kind of related it in my piece to Black Mirror. If you ever heard of that show, I just started watching it. I think I'm on episode 3. But episode 2 pretty much is like the basis of Endless. But I think the Black Mirror episode is more developed into like where technology was headed. Whereas Endless is kind of like the start of that. If we keep going on this path, in Frank Ocean's eyes, we're going to end up as a society that continually is boxed into like technology. It's gonna be all around us, like that episode. And then like some of the records on Endless too, you can kind of relate that to a technology based idea. I mean, Unity, if you listen to the lyrics of that, it sounds like something you find on a Tumblr. And then you have Alabama, which comes along as like a Twitter in audio form. It's a short record, but he says, "What can I do to know you better?" Now, doesn't that sound like something that you would tweet your crush on, Twitter subliminally, of course? So I was listening to it, and that's the vibe that I got out of it. And it's a pretty good album once you dissect it and get into it. With Blonde, like I said, it's more of the traditional Frank Ocean sound and like closer to his life. There's not much of technology usage in the album. Like White Ferrari, he's talking about how he's going on a nighttime ride, probably on cocaine, just like an adventure, a journey that doesn't rely on being on Facebook. And speaking of Facebook, there's the Facebook story, which producer Sebastian, it's just a little interlude, and he's talking about how Facebook ruined a relationship. And I think that tells you a lot about the album. It's like Frank is telling you, get away from technology. Use it a little bit, but mostly get away from it. And it was funny because I was reading about how Sebastian found out that skit was on there. I guess Frank would record conversations in the studio occasionally, like just out of the blue, and I guess that one must have struck a chord with him. He never explained to Sebastian why he included it, but the gist that I got out of it was because he wanted to show like how technology can destroy relationships. I talked about Solo in a previous video, but I wanted to kind of revisit it and talk about how he is using like experiences once again. He says it's hell on earth and the city's on fire. In hell, there's heaven. It's a nice triple entendre. Him smoking, of course, and then how if you inhale smoke, you're gonna die. There's heaven, and then how even when you're in hell, like actual hell, there's some form of heaven to be examined, to be appreciated for that. So I like that joint a lot. On Godspeed, he kind of reflects upon his younger years. So Blonde is pretty much like Frank Ocean's life, and Endless could be interpreted in many different ways. You can say, just the core of it is just technology based, but you can also say like maybe this is how Frank views the world. At the end of the day, people are going to interpret Frank Ocean's albums in different ways. I've seen a lot of different opinions on what they could mean, and maybe we'll never actually figure it out. Or maybe somebody has, but we'll never know because Frank Ocean lets the music talk for himself. He doesn't sit here and break down all the music and tell you, well, this is what this song means, and this is no. He wants you to interpret the music, and I think it works. It got a lot of people discussing the albums, and I appreciate when artists do that because you can tell that Frank puts a lot of attention to detail into his music. He puts a lot of time and effort. And at the end of the day, Frank Ocean pretty much, he runs on his time, he's in his own world, and he has his own views. So that was my theory on Blonde. Blonde and Endless. You can check out my piece. I'll include it in the description section. I wrote it and put it on Medium. So check it out if you want to read a more in-depth version of it. And then let me know what you think about this. Do you think my theory could be possible? What do you think can be tightened out of it? I just want to, hear your thoughts about it. What are you thinking about the albums after about a week of enjoying them and listening to them? So let me know what you think in the comment section below, and then like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter @SermonsDomain, and as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching, and until next time, peace.